Under the old wooden boardwalk of Seaside Haven, the waves spoke in hushed tones. The salty breeze carried tales of sunken ships and hidden treasures, but for 13-year-old Sam, it was a place of refuge, a secret world beneath the bustling beach town. Sam lived with his grandmother, Mrs. Eleanor, who ran the town's small bakery. Their days were simple: early morning baking, midday deliveries, and quiet evenings listening to the sound of the ocean. But Sam had a secret of his own. He had discovered a hidden door beneath the boardwalk, concealed by layers of seaweed and driftwood. Whenever he needed solace, he would crawl through the narrow gap to find a small, sandy cave where he could escape the world. One afternoon, while Sam explored his secret haven, he noticed something unusual. The tide had receded further than usual, revealing a rusted lockbox wedged between two rocks. His heart raced as he pried it open. Inside, he found a collection of faded letters, a locket, and a map marked with an X. Sam hurried home, clutching the lockbox tightly. He showed the contents to his grandmother, whose eyes widened as she examined the letters. "These belong to my grandfather," Mrs. Eleanor whispered, her voice trembling. "He was a sailor who disappeared long ago. This map might lead to something he left behind." Determined to uncover the truth, Sam and his grandmother studied the map. It depicted Seaside Haven, but the markings were faint and cryptic. A sketch of the boardwalk stood at the center, with arrows pointing toward the cliffs at the far end of the beach. "We'll need to be careful," Mrs. Eleanor said. "The cliffs can be dangerous, especially with the tides." The next morning, Sam and his grandmother set out for the cliffs. Armed with flashlights and a sense of adventure, they followed the map's clues. The path led them to a narrow crevice in the rock face, just visible at low tide. They squeezed through and found themselves in a hidden cove. In the center of the cove stood an old wooden chest, partially buried in sand. With some effort, they pried it open. Inside were journals, photographs, and a small pouch of gold coins. The journals told the story of Mrs. Eleanor's grandfather's voyages and the treasures he had collected from distant lands. But the final entry revealed a troubling secret. A rival sailor, Captain Harridan, had vowed to claim the treasure for himself. "We'll need to protect this," Mrs. Eleanor said. "There are people who would stop at nothing to take it." News of their discovery spread quickly. Though Sam and his grandmother had told no one, it seemed the whispers of the sea had reached eager ears. One evening, as they locked up the bakery, Sam noticed a figure lurking near the boardwalk. He recognized the man from an old photograph in the journals. It was Captain Harridan, or someone claiming to be him. "Stay inside," Mrs. Eleanor warned. "We'll confront him tomorrow, but only with the townsfolk's help." The next morning, they gathered their neighbors and shared the story of the treasure. The townsfolk, many of whom had fond memories of Mrs. Eleanor's grandfather, vowed to help protect the legacy. Together, they devised a plan to confront the mysterious figure. That night, the town gathered under the boardwalk, armed with lanterns and determination. When Captain Harridan appeared, Sam and Mrs. Eleanor stepped forward. "This treasure belongs to the town," Mrs. Eleanor declared. "It's part of our history." Captain Harridan laughed. "History doesn't matter to me," he sneered. "I'll take what's rightfully mine." But the townsfolk stood firm. With their combined strength, they managed to outwit the intruder, driving him away for good. The treasure was safe, and the story of Mrs. Eleanor's grandfather became a cherished part of Seaside Haven's heritage. In the days that followed, the treasure was displayed in the town's museum, a reminder of the courage and unity that had protected it. Sam learned an important lesson. The greatest treasures are not gold or jewels, but the bonds of family and community. Under the boardwalk, the waves continued to whisper, their stories now richer with the tales of bravery and the enduring legacy of Seaside Haven.